Okay, so today we have the pleasure of speaking to a truly inspiring individual, Syeda Aimen Jafri. Aimen is a passionate advocate for multiculturalism and community service, she has served as the chair of the Multicultural Council of Tasmania, and she has worked tirelessly at the Migrant Resource Center in Tasmania. Her journey is one of resilience, commitment, and determination. Her work has supported countless individuals in settling down in Tasmania, and for the rest of things, we would like to know more from her, her journey, and her experience over there and before that. Assalamu alaikum, Aimen. Thank you very much for joining me.
Walaikum salam, and thank you for that introduction. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed just listening to it.
Okay. So, what brought you to Tasmania? So, I just contacted you. You are one of the inspiration because when you know somebody who is from your own city, I mean, who belongs to your city, and myself being an aspirant immigrant who's trying to move to Tasmania and obviously waiting for the things to finalize, you have been an inspiration. So, what brought you to Tasmania? What has been your journey? If you can shed some light on this.
Well, I have a background in human resources and marketing, and my husband is a mechanical engineer, and he was working for a Pakistani organization, and we were based in the Middle East for 12 years. And
Okay.
the sole reason for coming to Tasmania was because of our children. We wanted to give them a very grounded upbringing, and we came to Tasmania to see how it was, how it is. Can we make this our home? And then the rest is history.
Very nice. So you mentioned, I was thinking to ask this a bit later, but you mentioned about the reason coming to Tasmania is give them a humble background of or things which are close to the nature or close to the reality. Coming from Middle East, which has a lot of superfluous nature, a lot of superlatives, competition, people are trying to get ahead of each other, and now living in Tasmania, do you see this has been different in terms of the targets or the lifestyles which you have been targeting over there in Middle East, or perhaps before that in Pakistan, and now living over there in Tasmania, or overall largely in Australia?
See, I cannot compare the lives that we lived in Pakistan or we lived in the Middle East or now what we're experiencing in Tasmania because they're completely different spaces. Like in Pakistan, I grew up in Pakistan, I was born in Pakistan, I lived in Pakistan for 24 years, and I
Yeah.
had my family around me, my friend, the support system, all the house help that I could think of. But then when we moved to Middle East, it was a completely different experience. It was uh, it was like we were living the most luxurious life, whatever you can think of, money, the brands, the fashion, the luxuries, it was all there. And I think I, coming from a Pakistani grounded family, that was not resonating with me because that was not the lifestyle that I wanted my children to experience at such an early stage. I wanted
Mhm.
them to be more resilient. I wanted them to be very grounded. I wanted them to learn things from grassroots. And I was not able to in give them that lifestyle in Middle East. I mean, I'm really grateful that I got an experience of living in the Middle East. I always tell my friends, just go there for some time and come back. But
Mhm.
the main reason was that I wanted my children to learn things from grassroots, be resilient, and have that agility in them, and experience real life, grounded life. So that was the thing. That was the reason why we moved here.
Oh, lovely. So talked about this from Todd Babbitt as well, who is currently the outgoing CEO of Brand Tasmania. That what did he think of Tasmania before moving over here? I'm sure that there must have been a lot of process and the formalities which you fulfilled. I'm not talking about that, but apart from that, Tasmania as a place within Australia. I mean, were you aware of that? Because he told us a very little but interesting story that he thought that Tasmania was maybe Tanzania. And obviously, these are two different territories in the world. So you were aware of this territory because for myself, Tasmania is a place where Pakistan has played very close matches of cricket in the 90s, especially. So what were your thinking about Tasmania before coming over here? And after you landed, what were your initial impressions of the island?
My husband had heard of Tasmania because obviously because of cricket, but I had never heard of Tasmania. For me, Australia was just Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah.
But my initial impression of Tasmania was I don't know. There are very few people in Tasmania who actually relate to it, but for me, Tasmania was a calling. It was something really strange that happened to me when we were landing, when we was coming for the first time in Tasmania in 2018, and when
Yeah.
I saw that first glimpse of Mount Wellington from the window of the plane, I heard a voice in my head that said, "This is home." And it was
Hmm.
a very strange feeling. I cannot explain it, but I think I've heard this story from few other people, so I think they can resonate that with me. But when we landed, I think I followed that voice, and I never looked back. And I think I embraced that that voice. I embraced the land, and I think the land embraced me as well. So when I reflect on my 6 years of journey in Tasmania, I think it has truly been a miracle. And I think I believe I call myself Tasmanian, and I believe that I'm more Tasmanian than a lot of people who are born in Tasmania.
Yeah, lovely. So he also mentioned that about that thing, that calling thing, when you are landing, there is a specific scenery which you come across. He also mentioned, and he has transformed that into a scent, the Tasmanian scent. So do you see that there is, or do you feel that beautiful, aroma when you land over here, or when you come out of the plane? That does that hit you when you come out of the plane over there?
It did. This is what I'm saying, that the feeling of that this is home, or you feel that you belong to this place, it was a very, very strong feeling. Although I did not know anyone at that time in
Yeah.
Tassie. I had no friends over here, nothing. But that I
Mhm.
felt that instant connection. So that was a very strong feeling at that time.
Very nice. So, how did you navigate the process of settling into this relatively new city, or perhaps which was totally new to you? Now, you yourself is a beacon of hope for people who are coming over there. But for yourself and your family, how was the journey, and how did you settle down over there?
See, Australia was my third migration, so I had a bit of an idea of what was coming. I mean, I migrated from Abu Dhabi, and Abu
Mm-hmm.
Dhabi is one of the most diverse countries. Or UAE is one of the most diverse countries in the world. I think there are around roughly 200 nationalities in
Yeah.
UAE at the moment. And I knew that the best way to learn or get to know about a country or a place is to meet people, to
Yeah.
understand them, to learn from them. I mean, when I came here, I think I boxed my ego somewhere and I buried it in the corner. I turned off my judgment button and I started looking at people or talking to them with the lens of an education, that if I'm meeting someone, what can I learn from them? Or how they can help me be a better version of myself. I think that
Mm-hmm.
also helped me in appreciating the beauty that people carry in their heart. Because when you look at somebody from an intention to learn, you will learn one thing or the other. So I navigated that and I started meeting people. Although I'm an ambivert, it takes a lot of my energy to go out and meet people, but that was the only way. So I tried my best to
Mm-hmm.
attend as many, I don't know, any networking events that I could go to, or any free trainings
Mm-hmm.
that I can attend that can, help me learn about Tasmania, or any knowledge that I can get off. So that was one of my tools to navigate my settlement here.
All right. So, thank you very much for mentioning that. Were there any organizations or any process which supported you while your settlement process in Tasmania, Aimen?
See, financially, there were none because we migrated on a skilled migrant
Mm-hmm.
visa. So there was no financial support from any organization. But like we always say, that it takes a village. And for me, I think the local Tasmanians who were already there, they played a very important part. I'm not sure if we can name people here on this forum or not, but there were
Please
a
do.
lot
Please,
of,
please,
sorry?
please.
Okay, so I
You can, or obviously you can.
I started my volunteering journey with Clarence Little Athletic Center, and the
Okay.
president at that time, Shane Cox, was the one who mentored me and who taught me how to do a lot of things. I was volunteering there as a secretary, but then I also
Mm-hmm.
volunteered at Beacon Foundation. I volunteered at the
Okay.
Migrant Resource Center, Tasmania. And those people who are already working in that space, I would especially like to mention the name of Alice Richards. She is now working in Task Waters. Laura, she was the HR manager at Migrant Resource Center Tasmania at that time. And these guys were amazing. They helped me a lot. They taught me a lot of things. They went an extra mile to make sure that I am, because my background is in human resources. And so they tried to help me grow and develop
Yeah.
in that area. But yes, I had amazing support from professionals that helped me grow in this space.
I think this also answers that what inspired you to come into community service. So I would like to jump to the question that are there any memories or major achievements, any settlement story which you like to share? Because again, I am sorry I'm making a lot of reference to the talk with Todd Babiak, but he has been focusing a lot on the stories. And when I went on to the website of Migration Tasmania, it was different in a way that it was showing the real life stories, which was slightly over there in Victoria's website. But other than that, there was no real life story which was mentioned that how they settled over there and how made a life for themselves and made a life for the local state. So you like to also like to share some settlement stories or some inspirations for the people who are thinking to come over there.
See, what inspired me to come to community services, it's a very personal story. I always wanted to work in the police. And when I was in
Okay.
Pakistan, I sat for my CSS exams and everything. But due to some cultural barriers, I was never able to pursue that career. And then
Yeah.
I think it was more about serving the communities, no matter what hat that I would wear. It was more about, bringing your people
Yeah.
together and serving them. That because I've always seen my family doing that in Pakistan. So I think that was very uh,
Mhm.
hardwired in my life. But when I came here and when I saw that there was a space where I can actually serve my community and build that bridge where I can help make things easier for people to settle, I quickly jumped onto this opportunity. And I'm really grateful that I'm working in a very beautiful space of diversity and inclusion, and also working in a cultural awareness space where I actually support the mainstream communities to work with the newly arriving migrants, and how to understand those
Yeah.
cultural differences and how we can work together to overcome those cultural barriers, because it's not only the migrants who are coming to Tasmania who needs to learn the new ways of living, new ways of entering into the workforce, but also people who have been here all their lives, may not have exposure to um, international markets, or may not have exposure to working with migrants, to understanding their perspective as well,
Yeah.
not looking at things
Mhm.
from their own cultural lens, challenging the unconscious bias all the time, and then help them also work in, like, step into the workforce.
Right. So, any personal stories? I mean, this was your story, obviously. Any story about the people whom you have supported? Would you like to mention? Obviously, without naming them, but how did they settle in with the support of Multicultural Council of Tasmania or the Migrant Resource Center?
See, I will talk about both the organizations because they work in completely separate spaces. The
Yeah.
Multicultural Council of Tasmania is an advocacy peak body, and
Yeah.
we advocate for the issues that are highlighted by the multicultural communities. We bring them, we influence policies that will help the government make Tasmania a more inclusive space. Whereas
Mhm.
the Migrant Resource Center Tasmania is a not for profit organization that helps refugees coming to Tassie, help them settle down. So initially, there are different programs that are run by the Migrant Resource Center Tasmania. We have a humanitarian and settlement program that actually helps uh, people who are coming on humanitarian visas in the initial 18 months of settlement. And then we have our settlement programs that help those transition those refugees and they for the coming next 5 years. But we have now also started to support the skilled migrants who are coming to Tasmania, whether it's finding work, or simple as writing their resumes. We have drop-ins where we meet with different migrants, and we hear their stories, how we can support them, whatever. I mean, simple sometimes. People need help even with opening bank statements.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when I started volunteering at MRC TAS in 2019, that was my role. You know, even filling out school admission forms, sometimes it's very difficult to understand those systems. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. And personally, I there are so many stories. There are, I mean, obviously, when somebody is here, the simplest thing that I
Hmm.
can do is that go and pick them from the airport and take them wherever they want to go, wherever their house is, or providing that first meal. Because when you are
Hmm.
coming to Tasmania after those 35 or 38 hours of journey, the last thing that you should have on your mind is that what I'm going to eat. Right? Unfortunately, we do not have many
Yeah.
halal options here, but yeah, that's one thing that I'm very keen on doing, because it's the little thing that matters. When people look at me and when they smile and they say thank you for doing this for us, it means a lot. I think it's very fulfilling for me.
Very remarkable. So, just I mean, this is little out of the agenda, but do you see that Aussie accent is a challenge now for you, or was that a challenge when you arrived over there in Tasmania, or that is more profound in that particular state, the accent and the language
I
barrier
missed your
for
question.
people who are coming from the outside?
I missed your question. I couldn't hear that properly.
So, it is regarding the language barrier and the accent. So, has that been a challenge for yourself, or do you see that as been a problem or a bit of challenge for the people who are learning?
Definitely, language is a barrier because
Hmm.
Tasmania has its own colloquial language. So until and unless
Okay.
you come down and you talk to people, you interact with them, and you pick up that those jargons, you cannot work with them. It's very important, and obviously,
Hmm.
English is not our first language. So even though we
Yeah.
are speaking in English, sometimes you might not have the right vocabulary to
Yeah.
say the word. So I
Hmm.
think when I talk to people, especially whose first language is English, I always tell them make sure that you understand that the person you're talking to whose first language is not English, you should be aware that
Hmm.
they might not have the right word to give you. So don't get offended if you don't get the right word, or you say something that is if they say something that you find inappropriate, or
Hmm.
yeah, so don't get offended with that. But having that understanding that even though we are speaking English, but we're not speaking English is very important. So when I do my cultural awareness sessions, I emphasize a lot on these points that make sure that English is Englishing at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, coming from Pakistan and lived in Abu Dhabi or maybe in the Middle East for 12 years, how do you see the weather change for yourself? So now, are you settled with the Tasmanian weather? Because I understand it is most of the time it is either the winters or very mild summers. So how that has been a challenge for yourself?
Weather is challenging, but I think I have climatized now because it's a bit summery here, but we're sweating. You can see on my face it's not shiny,
Okay.
but yeah, it
That's good
has,
to know.
we have adapted
Mhm.
it to the new weather now.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much. Please continue doing the good work. I just requested out of blue, and that has been one I mean, aspect of you people, especially yourself, that resonate with the rest of the state. That how helping people help you. Hopefully, we will chat again, and hopefully, we will have a chance to meet in person.
Definitely, I'm actually looking forward for you to come here, and I want to see what wonders do you do, because I mean, I'm following you on in LinkedIn, and I'm seeing all the great work that you've started to doing already, and started to build your networks in Tasmania already, which is, I think, it's a great thing, because one of the most important things of settlement in Tasmania is understanding the dynamics of the island, and understanding that Tasmania is all
Yeah.
about connection. And there's no harm in saying
Yeah.
that it's all about connections, because Tasmania is a small state. Okay, everybody knows everyone. Either
Yeah.
they have gone to the same school, or they have gone to the same college, or they've gone to the same university, or they've worked in the same space for
Hmm.
number of years. So they have built that networks around themselves. They're somebody's
Hmm.
friend, somebody's wife or husband, and that's fine. So understanding that it's you should
Hmm.
be interacting with the right kind of people and building your networks, it's a great thing, and I think you're on the right track.
Thank you very much. It's heartening to know that, and hope to talk to you when too soon again. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.